Thanks for joining today. Grateful for your presence and your participation as always. And I'm California Attorney General Rob Bonta, and pleased to welcome to the DOJ our great Governor Gavin Newsom, as well as Kim Johnson, Secretary of the California Health and Human Services Agency, each of whom you will hear from shortly. I'm going to kick it off here today to announce California's latest lawsuit against the federal government, and specifically the U.S. Department of Agriculture, also known as USDA, and Secretary Brooke Rollins. Using the current federal shutdown as a scapegoat, USDA has unlawfully suspended funds for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, for the first time in the program's history, informing state agencies that the federal government will withhold all November benefit payments. Trump and Rollins are cutting off benefits from more than 41 million Americans. 41 million Americans, red states and blue states, folks who rely on SNAP to put food on the table, even though there are billions of dollars in contingency funds and other funds that could be used to provide SNAP benefits during the shutdown. They are doing this on purpose. It is deliberate. It is intentional. They have the funds. They're just not using them. The vast majority of SNAP recipients are families with kids, elderly individuals, and people with disabilities. These are our most vulnerable. Society should be judged on how we treat the most vulnerable. Trump gets an F for what he is doing here to our kids and to our most vulnerable Americans. Here in California, our SNAP program, CalFresh, supports 5.5 million Californians every month, including 1.9 million children. All of them are counting on this program. They're counting on their government to follow through on its promise and to provide the support that they need. In abruptly suspending SNAP, Trump and Rollins have broken the law. They have forced states to scramble to try and clean up the federal government's mess. And worst of all, they've left 41 million Americans unsure of where their next meal will come from. With today's lawsuit, our coalition of 23 attorneys general and 3 governors who are standing up for the people in their state have made it clear that we refuse to stand by and allow the Trump administration to arbitrarily and unlawfully do away with a decades-old safety net program, the country's most important tool for fighting against hunger. Before I talk further about this case, I want to acknowledge the incredible teams in all of our offices who worked diligently to put this lawsuit together, including working through the weekend. It has been common that working through the weekend and late nights, sometimes all-nighters, is something that our team is no stranger to. I'm grateful for them. I'm proud of them. They don't do it for the recognition. They do it for the mission. And at California DOJ, folks who are pursuing that mission includes our government law section, our special litigation teams. We wouldn't be able to serve our respective states without these incredible public servants. I'm grateful to be one of their colleagues and to lead our department. Which brings me back to this lawsuit and the unlawful suspension of SNAP benefits. I want to first back up a bit to explain the timeline here. On September 30th, ahead of the imminent shutdown, USDA issued a, quote, lapse of funding plan that stated that Congress's clear intent is that SNAP should continue, even if there is a lapse in federal funding. They said that on September 30th. The plan also stated that Congress, which created and funds SNAP, has provided multi-year contingency funds to provide for the benefits in situations just like this. This is what the contingency funds are for, to be spent in times like this. Based on 2 congressional appropriations, we believe that USDA has up to $6 billion in contingency funds and possibly more to fund SNAP. All they have to do is spend that money that is there for this purpose, but they're not. That's enough money to cover November's benefits, and there are other pots of money that USDA can access that could fund the rest of November's benefits. On October 1st, once the shutdown had begun, USDA sent state agencies a letter directing them to continue administering SNAP, including processing new applications and preparing November's benefits. 9 days later, in direct contradiction of those 2 earlier communications, USDA sent a new letter stating that if the shutdown continues, there wouldn't be enough funds for November benefits. Complete 180. The letter claimed that USDA had only just begun the process of fact-finding and information gathering to address the impact of the shutdown. It stated it needed maximum flexibility, was their term, during the shutdown, and directed us to withhold November benefit issuance files until further notice. Nothing was said about the contingency funds reserved for a situation just like this one. That seemed to be an inconvenient fact that they didn't want to talk about. Nothing was said about USDA's prior communication that said the opposite. They ignored their communications from just days earlier. Nothing was said about the families that would be left high and left dry come November. On October 24th, USDA sent another letter confirming that it was suspending November SNAP benefits. That same day, USDA issued a memo claiming that it had no legal authority to use contingency funds and that tapping into the available funds would jeopardize other federal programs that need to be funded. But USDA provided zero basis of any kind, zero authority to support that claim. The next day, the SNAP website blamed Senate Democrats for the SNAP suspension and claimed, quote, "the well has run dry," end quote. Mind you, there is a contingency fund with billions of dollars. That's the well that is supposedly dry. We know that's absolutely false, that the well has run dry. That claim is wrong. It's a lie. The well has up to $6 billion ready to be tapped into. Trump and his administration are willing to put more than 41 million Americans at risk of hunger, at risk of food insecurity, at risk of malnutrition, if it gives them a new play in their twisted political game. They are playing politics while Americans go hungry. It is avoidable. They have chosen this path. The reality is that what the Trump administration is doing is illegal. The federal government has a legal obligation to provide SNAP payments to those who meet program eligibility requirements. The law is clear that USDA can't suspend SNAP benefits without first spending the money it has available, which it has not done. Instead of providing the benefits it can, doing the most good it can, USDA has unnecessarily and unlawfully suspended the program altogether without an adequate explanation or a plan. By failing to follow the law and fulfill its obligations, by flouting process and protocol required when dealing with federal programs and federal funding appropriated by the co-equal branch of Congress, by ignoring Congress's intent, by providing no clarity or further information to the states that actually have to run the program, despite our requests for more information, by failing to engage in any reasoned decision-making, and failing to consider the impact their actions will have on our states or the health and well-being of millions of Americans. The Trump administration has broken the law again, which is why we're asking the court to make clear that this SNAP suspension is unlawful, to require USDA to use the funds available to provide as many benefits as possible and to prevent USDA from withholding benefits in November. Every American, regardless of political affiliation, should be outraged by the Trump administration's willingness to let more than 41 million Americans go hungry. Completely avoidable, not necessary, a chosen path. Cutting SNAP will leave families hungry, leading to malnutrition and dire health outcomes. When children go hungry, they struggle in school. They experience fatigue, depression, exhibit behavioral problems. Food insecurity results in higher healthcare use and costs, including more emergency room visits and hospitalizations, which will put undue strain on our healthcare systems and programs like Medicaid. In fact, lower-income adults participating in SNAP have been shown to incur about $1,400 less in medical care costs in a year than those who don't participate in the program. The country's need for SNAP does not disappear just because USDA has abandoned its responsibility to fund it. Instead, families will be forced to turn to state and local governments, community organizations, for the food assistance they need, none of which are equipped or ready to fill the massive hole the SNAP suspension creates. In California, food banks already help support 4.6 million Californians facing food insecurity, and they're already struggling to fulfill those needs in the face of other federal cutbacks, including $500 million cut in food deliveries earlier this year. Since the suspension was announced, our state agencies have been left to hold the bag. State agencies are required to continue operating our SNAP programs even when the federal government has suspended benefits. That means with little notice, our states have to continue processing applications, knowing the applicants won't receive the benefits they're applying for. We've had to spend our limited resources on creating urgent new messaging campaigns and delivering the terrible news to families that they won't get the help they need to buy groceries come November. We've been saddled with new administrative costs, and through it all, we don't even have a plan or clear direction from USDA. Meanwhile, our economy is about to feel the hit of SNAP's disappearance. Stores and farmers will lose out on the business they expect from SNAP recipients. In California, we're talking about 26,600 grocers, farmers markets, and other businesses that accept SNAP payments. USDA itself has estimated that every $1 in SNAP benefits generates more than $1.50 in economic activity, a 150% return for our economy now gone. The irreparable harm to families and individuals who count on SNAP, the harm to our states and state agencies, and the harm to our economy is immense and imminent unless USDA immediately reverses their decision. Trump and Rollins have made it clear that the millions of families who rely on our government for food assistance are not a priority. Kids who will be more focused on their grumbling bellies than what they're learning in school aren't a priority. Seniors, individuals with disabilities, and veterans, not a priority. Ending this government shutdown isn't a priority. Trump has made clear he's more focused on tearing down a historic building to build himself a gold-laden ballroom for lavish parties than ensuring American families can put dinner on the table. And the fact that Thanksgiving is mere weeks away is just salt in the wound. Just imagine the extravagance of Trump's Thanksgiving table while millions across the country don't know how they'll even buy a turkey. Trump and Rollins may be pointing at the shutdown as the cause of this disastrous suspension, but the USDA has historically continued the safety net program through shutdowns. We've been here before. This money has been spent before. It can and it must legally be spent now. As recently as 2021, the USDA and the Office of Management and Budget made clear that Congress intends for SNAP benefits to continue despite lapses in appropriations, and the USDA should use contingency reserves in that case. During the 2019 government shutdown, USDA acknowledged that contingency funds could be used to continue SNAP benefits. There's neither any legal basis or precedent for USDA's decision to suspend SNAP and desert more than 41 million Americans. It's untenable to think that the administration would stoop as low as letting people go hungry to try to win some political upper hand so they can bludgeon Democrats with it. It's time for the president and his administration to actually serve the people of this country and abide by the laws they swore to uphold. It's deeply disconcerting that 40 weeks into this presidency, California has already had to file 45 lawsuits against Trump and his administration, more than one a week. But that's the reality we're in. And you've got my word that my fellow Democratic attorneys general and I won't back down, whatever comes. We'll continue to stand up for our states, the people who live in them. We'll continue to take the federal administration to court when they break the law, violate our Constitution, and harm our people. If they break the law, we sue. If they don't break the law, we don't sue. It's that simple. And so we've done it 45 times so far. And before I turn it over to the governor and my colleagues here, I want to again thank the members of California DOJ's team who made this lawsuit possible. I want to shout out and thank Maria Buxton, Sebastian Brady, Liam O'Connor, Chris Kissel, Ryan Eason, and William Bellamy, a great team I'm proud to work with and serve with. And with that, please let me introduce Secretary Johnson, and we'll circle back for questions at the end. Secretary?
Good luck, Secretary, after that. Jesus Christ, that was good.
Yeah,
Convinced me.
Absolutely.
I got nothing. Anyway.
And thank you. As I'm proud to stand here alongside the Attorney General and the Governor, I'm also devastated that we must fight to simply ensure people can put food on the table, especially those with the most need. And the Attorney General covered who we're talking about, 5.5 million Californians, again, primarily families, 1.1 million older adults over the age of 60, our elders, our grandparents. Over 84,000 veterans, also part of those that are impacted, low-income college students, and more. The other point of this is the cruelty couldn't be more apparent. While we have universal school meals in California, during November and December, our children are off for the holiday. And so while there's more need for resources in the household to support those children at this time, is when the federal government is deciding to take this action. So you heard from the Attorney General about the economic impact. CalFresh benefits in California are about $194 per individual or $333 per household. We also know, in addition to the health impacts and the food and nutrition impacts, that this is also disrupting poverty in California. The California poverty measure shows that poverty among all of Californians would be 3.1% higher if not for the nutrition safety net. That equates to 1.2 million more Californians in poverty without these resources. So again, we're taking action in this moment. I'm grateful that the governor has asked that we accelerate $80 million to the food banks and their networks across the state. We greatly appreciate the partnership of the California National Guard and Cal Volunteers, who's helping shore up the capacity of those food banks to get that food distributed. And we also need your help. For those of you who want to step up in this moment in your communities, we encourage you to visit cafoodbanks.org. You'll find the local food bank in your community. They'll let you know what specific donations would be most in need, and they'll also let you know how you can volunteer to be part of the solutions as we support California's values and how we support our neighbors across the state. All of these efforts, while, again, we demand that the federal government follow the law. And with that, I'll turn it over to the governor.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Secretary, and thank you to the Attorney General. I appreciate the comprehensive nature of this lawsuit, and so I won't belabor or repeat or be redundant except to say he's going to be successful. We will be successful. That's why we're here. We could talk about our contingency plans, and I'll add to that in a moment, but this is about as crystal clear an argument that I've seen of the 40-plus lawsuits that we have advanced. USDA shall, their own words, 930 memo just weeks ago. They said the reason we have the contingency plan is appropriated by Congress is to, in case there is a government shutdown, to advance these funds to address and mitigate this potential looming crisis, period, full stop. It's not complicated. So I want to applaud the Attorney General. I want to applaud those Attorney Generals across the United States, those three governors that stood up. I'm shocked, then again not, that other Republican state governors are not also joining this lawsuit. The impacts in their states, ironically, are disproportionate. Rural, red parts of this country, the impacts to these cuts are disproportionate. That said, the reason I'm not shocked is these are the same group of people in the Republican Party representatives that supported the big, beautiful bill that looked to cut $186 billion from SNAP over the next decade. They approved that. They promoted that. This is their policy. This is what they support. This is, in many respects, a preview of things to come. $186 billion 10-year cut to food stamps to SNAP in the big, beautiful bill, impacting in California. We estimate 395,000 people that will lose their coverage because of the new criteria and new requirements in that bill. I find it also interesting that the Senate's going to be having lunch today. Lunch to discuss cuts to food programs. Hope they enjoy their lunch. Just paint that picture. Attorney General painted the picture of the ballroom. I just want to paint the picture, the situational reality of what is and what is not occurring in Washington, D.C. The Speaker of the House of Representatives remarkably once again lied when he said, well, it's a government shutdown, there's nothing we can do about it. You can see the board right behind the Attorney General. There's been situations in the past consistently. This program has been funded during government shutdowns. He lied. Once again, he lied. It's also interesting to me because I spent a little time at a wonderful Jesuit university. If there was anything I remember about my 4 years with Father Cause, is that the New Testament and Old Testament have one thing dominantly in common. In Matthew and Isaiah, Luke, Proverbs, go down the list. It's around food. It's about serving those that are hungry. It's not a suggestion in the Old and New Testament. It's core and central to what it is to align to God's will, period, full stop. I say that because these guys need to stop the BS in Washington, D.C. So they're sitting there in their prayer breakfasts. I mean, maybe they got an edited version of Donald Trump's Bible, and they edited all of that out. I mean, enough of this. Cruelty is the policy. That's what this is about. It's intentional cruelty, intentionally creating anxiety for millions and millions of people, 5.5 million here in our home state. So, again, our state of mind is pretty clear. We're going to win this lawsuit. And I want to thank the Attorney General and his team for outstanding job putting together the arguments and putting together the partnerships and the coalition to advance this lawsuit. I'll close briefly. In the absence of that success, California's fast-tracked the distribution of $80 million to the 50 food banks, the spoken hub wheel that we have, this system networks that support about 2,500 pantries across the state. We fast-tracked the distribution of $80 million. Just last week, we had 397 members of Cal Volunteers that were sent out to support food banks across the state of California. Hundreds more will be deployed as needed. And we also called up the National Guard, 35 National Guard men and women. And I hope you saw some videos and some photos. Proud to be there. Proud to be the good guys. Proud to not, to separate themselves from their other assignments. Proud to be back at the food banks where they were during COVID, distributing over 800 million meals during COVID, providing logistics and support for our volunteers in our food banks. We have a cohort of about 150 that are available as requested. We're not forcing the Guard on anyone, as requested. They were requested in Los Angeles, and we hope others will consider the same throughout the state of California. In the absence of that, again, we'll continue to support our volunteers through Cal Volunteers and individuals that want to volunteer food banks. Final thing. This is a holiday season. This is when food banks are already busy. This is when there's already a lot of pressure and anxiety. And anyone that's bought coffee, you understand prices are through the roof, record-breaking prices. Right? Inflation's out of control once again in this country. Ask any of us that bought a pound of beef. Many of you are buying Halloween candy. It's up 10.8%. Just since this administration took the oath of office. President, so desperate, he's overseas trying to clean up his mess. He's telling people to buy today foreign cars, which is extraordinary, and foreign beef. He's found $20 billion, didn't he? Found $20 billion to send to wannabe dictator in Argentina. Now he wants to buy beef from Argentina. $20 billion he found, but he can't provide as legally required $6 billion from a contingency fund that was set up precisely for this moment. That's about cruelty, period. That's all this is about. So respect to our AG, to our blue state governors leading the way, and shame on those Republican representatives in Congress, particularly those having lunch today, as we discuss contingent plans all across the United States to help keep people fed and keep people from being hungry. With that, the AG is here to answer any of your questions.
I'll start with an on-topic question, Attorney General. So process-wise, what do you anticipate just moving forward? Do you anticipate a judge making a ruling on a temporary restraining order? And then if I am a person that receives SNAP funding come this weekend, what should I anticipate?
Great question. Thank you for the on-topic question. We are filing today both our complaint as well as a temporary restraining order request. The temporary restraining order requests move on an expedited timeline. We can get a hearing and a ruling. Sometimes we've gotten them the same day, sometimes the next day. And that will stop and block the withholding of the expenditure of the contingency funding and allow that contingency funding to flow just as we believe it should, just as it has every other time there's been a government shutdown, and start providing for SNAP benefits to flow to Californians and to all of the 26 states in the lawsuit. I do want to make a point to the governor's point. Every red state attorney general who is not part of this lawsuit, based on the recent U.S. Supreme Court decision in CASA, they will have to explain to their people why they didn't stand up against Trump's unlawfulness that deprived their people of food, their children and seniors and the disabled of food, and how they were craven and cowardly and did not stand up for the rule of law and uphold their oath. So they're not going to get benefits because they're not in this case. We will get benefits when we win this case at all 26 states that are seeking it. So we believe we can get a restraining order in short order, and that the SNAP benefits will flow as they should have been flowing already.
An off-topic question, but I think both of you mentioned the ballroom. I want to first acknowledge that neither one of you are leading the Capitol Annex project, but Mr. Attorney General, you voted to approve it in 2018. Mr. Governor, the Department of General Services, which you oversee, is part of it. It has been 3 years since the legislature updated the public on the cost of that project. It is happening right now. If one of your windows could probably oversee it. You could see the construction is happening, but yet the legislature's Joint Rules Committee refuses to provide an update. We've reported that they have violated the Legislative Open Records Act. They are continuing to withhold public records. I have asked for an interview for more than a year now, and no one will provide an update. I mean, is that appropriate on one of the most expensive buildings in the United States at this point?
You're my attorney.
And I will say,
By the way, I don't think it's appropriate. They should provide you the information, period, full stop. But for you to conflate or compare and contrast is, with all due respect, I think that I would separate the ballroom and what Donald Trump just did in desecration and the process and that he evolved and the fact that he secured $300 million under curious circumstances from the annex and what the legislature is trying to do. And I'm not trying to defend those actions, but absolutely
I'm
they
not
should
comparing
provide.
the two.
No,
I'm
but
just saying that you mentioned
just balancing.
There's construction happening in that capital
I
and
get
our
it.
capital, and so that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, very.
Is that appropriate, though? I mean, truly, for the public to not know how much
They should
that building
know. That's
costs?
what I said. You should get that information.
Well, but
I
Mr.
agree
Governor,
it's inappropriate. By the way, I didn't know they were not talking to you. I apologize that members of the legislature are not talking to you. They're on recess. I'll check in with them. Let me know. I'm happy to help you try to get access to members of the California legislature with respect, not my branch of government, but I'm happy because as a taxpayer, I'd like to know as well. I appreciate the question you asked, and I think it would be appropriate to provide that information, and you should have access to it. It's the public's building. You absolutely deserve that. So yes, it's inappropriate. Yes, you deserve that information, and yes, we're happy to help you.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Governor.
Okay.
I have a question about the OpenAI news from today, just for both of you, Mr. Governor and Mr. Attorney General. How engaged have either or both of you been with OpenAI? Mr. Governor, I know that like a lot of your allies have been hired by OpenAI now that they are transitioning to a for-profit model. I'd like to hear about that from you. And also, Mr. Attorney General, have you gotten any kind of deal or agreement from them on children's safety, which you said was like, how will the state continue to oversee this?
Yeah, I've been personally involved. My team has been deeply involved for over a year and a half, an investigation and then negotiations with OpenAI about their adherence to their mission as a charitable organization that operates here in the state of California. That's our nexus. As the California DOJ, we oversee charitable organizations. OpenAI is a charitable organization, of course, with a proposed public benefit corporation that will be part of their broad structure. But that is our nexus. We have been working with them. We entered into an MOU late last night with them that had major concessions on their part, in our view, that help them adhere to their mission going forward, ensure safety, including the safety of children going forward. That's part of their broader mission. Their mission is to have AI for the benefit of all humanity. Children are part of humanity. Children's safety is part of benefiting all of humanity. And so this was a moment in time where we got major concessions around, but we will get notice of any change in control of the board. We'll get notice of any change in mission. Importantly, we also got a commitment that they'll stay and operate in California. We believe that great nonprofits and great businesses can be based in California, grow in California, thrive in California, and be safe and create safety for those that they serve. And we expect OpenAI to do both. They must do both, as is required. So more details in the MOU. We will have an ongoing role with respect to making sure they adhere to their nonprofit mission and do everything to potentially and lawfully to protect children and ensure safety of all those who use their services. And we will be vigilant in that ongoing role.
Governor, question for you when it comes to Prop 50. The New York Times had an article reporting on a conversation in which you and your team members mentioned that you no longer need campaign donations from small donors. Can you kind of expand on the confidence that exudes about the election?
I know I did I don't know about any reporting about those Zoom conversations, but at a very public interaction with that donor base, because I did a video saying, please stop sending money. 1.2 million contributors, or contributions rather, have been received. $38 million in small dollar. It just blew past our expectation. And so we have the budget, period, full stop, to complete what we set out to do, which was to be successful and win Proposition 50. I admit, and I appreciate the question, it's the first time, I don't know, likely to be the last time, that I've ever said, stop, please don't send any more money. I don't know many elected officials have ever been able to lay claim to that, period, full stop. And I said, just, $10, $20, particularly now in light of everything we've been discussing here today about food insecurity and the like, is a lot of money to people. And so I said, please keep your money or redirect it to other causes. And we began to orient some consideration to that in Indiana and what the governor just did with a special session there, which is extraordinary, considering the coercion that's gone on in Indiana to do this mid-decade redistricting and to other states and other causes. So that's it. But I also made it crystal clear. It doesn't mean we've won the campaign. Quite the contrary. It just means we're being honest with people. We don't need the money. But the money that has been raised is going to be utilized for our field campaign, which is one of the biggest in state's history, and to make sure we deliver on what we've been promoting. So we made the point we're running the 110-yard dash, not the 90-yard dash. It's all about get out the vote now. But the low dollar money we just don't need at this moment.
Mr. Governor, to follow up on that, I wonder in this final week, the home stretch, do you have plans to be out on the campaign trail this weekend?
Or yesterday, last night, today, every day. No, that's all I've been doing. I mean, I've been all over the state. Just got in late last night from Southern California, a number of events. We were in San Jose just a few days ago doing events and get out the vote. And look, this is, it's a familiar time of the year for a lot of us. And so a week or so left to Election Day. And to me, everything's on the line. And I don't, what more evidence you need? This lawsuit, 42 others plus that the AG is filed now. What's going on with these illegal tariffs and the impact that's having on cost of candy, the cost of backpacks and back-to-school supplies, the impacts of those tariffs, those taxes on all of you, the recklessness of this administration. Yes, the wrecking ball at the White House and the East Wing, the $173 million that they apparently were able to find for Kristi Noem's brand new planes, but they can't again find money for food stamps at this time. The supine Congress and increasingly supine Supreme Court, this shadow docket, the emergency docket, where they continue to give license to the President of the United States to racially profile Americans. Basis of their skin color, where they congregate, and the language they speak. I mean, this is extraordinary moment. And so I think Prop 50 is deeply part of that. And so we're going to do everything we can over the course of the next week to remind people what's at stake, and I think really trip up some of that momentum on the Trump administration.
And I wanted to just follow up. You mentioned the fundraising email this morning, directing donations to the fight in Indiana. Can you sort of put, from your perspective at this moment, obviously it's changing as other states jump in, and but how does Prop 50 fit into the national?
Look, this guy, Donald Trump, wants to rig the election before one vote is cast. It's completely consistent with a guy that referenced January 6th as a beautiful day, where he tried to light democracy on fire and tried to wreck our democracy. He made phone calls to the Secretary of State in Georgia, and he followed up consistent practice by making calls to governors all across this country, starting with Greg Abbott, who he later said he was, quote unquote, entitled to 5 new Texas seats. You saw what happened in Missouri, saw what happened in North Carolina. Their legislative leaders couldn't even, they just said they might as well have used the phrase, dear leader. What they're doing now with special session, which, by the way, the governor knows better. He didn't want to do this in Indiana, but the threats coming from the Trump administration to Republican governor, this is just unprecedented in American history. And so Prop 50 is our way of fighting back. He's rigging the game. He can't win. He's weak. That's what this is all about. He's a race against the clock. He knows he's going to lose the midterm elections. He knows it, so he has to change the rules because he can't win fairly. He can't win if the rules are not changed in his favor. That's why he's rigging the election. That's why he sent masked men, Greg Bovino, who's in court appropriately today. When we kicked off our Prop 50 campaign, he sent his masked men as secret police. They at least appear to be acting as secret police, sworn in office, swearing an oath to the President of the United States. Listen to Bovino's defense of what he just did, throwing chemicals at people against a court order. He said, I work for the president and Kristi Noem. No, you don't. You work for the people of the United States of America. You took an oath of office to the Constitution of the United States of America, not to one man. That's a preview of things to come, part of the rigging, part of the voter suppression. It's exactly why the National Guard were federalized through Election Day. That's a preview of things to come, not just in California, but all across the United States in 2026. And yes, and the AG, I'm sure, is eager to grab the mic on this final point. That's why he sent these election monitors to 5 curious counties in the state of California, a preview of things to come all across the United States of America, to intimidate, to create a false pretext, to go to federal court and say somehow this election was stolen, that it was conducted illegally. This is all happening in plain sight. This is not about blue versus red. This is about red, white, and blue. This is about the United States of America. It's about what our founding fathers lived and died for. So Prop 50 is central to that. Being successful is foundational to that. And so we're fighting back. And we're doing it not just rhetorically. We're doing it substantively through lawsuits, litigation, policy making, and the work that Kim is doing and her team in terms of trying to address people's anxieties and fears and needs. And we're doing it substantively, the people of this state. And I think they're going to send a very powerful message to the rest of the country that there has to be a new approach to dealing with Trump and Trumpism, that what we've done in the past has not been working. He did not expect that we would go to the ballot. I think the best he expected is I would submit an op-ed and pray that maybe one of the major newspapers would pick it up. They didn't expect this. And the fact is 1.2 million contributors, millions of people stepped up to this from all 50 states. That's why it's Prop 50. It's about the United States of America, not just the state of California. They didn't expect people to stand up like that. They didn't expect 7 million people to peacefully protest at the No Kings rally. People are waking up and pushing back. And again, applaud the AG for doing just that here today.
Mr. Governor, back to the SNAP issue, I think it's a cudgel by the Trump administration in this showdown with Democrats. Do you have any thoughts on how the Democrats should proceed
And I also have a follow-up. Josh Hawley is trying to restore SNAP benefits. How serious is it?
I applaud anyone that wants to restore sanity and restore benefits for those in need. So I appreciate that effort to the extent that it's a sincere effort, not a tactical effort. But as it relates to the shutdown, I think the Democrats have asserted themselves brilliantly on behalf of a core value, and that is health. They've highlighted, they're unified, they've highlighted an issue that transcends, that connects all of us together. And these extraordinary and exorbitant increases to healthcare costs that are going into effect at the same time they're cutting food stamps and benefits. Again, I'll connect back to the big, beautiful bill. There's an origin story here. It connects a thread. The largest cuts to Medicaid in American history were supported by Josh Hawley and the Republicans. They supported some of the largest cuts to food stamps and SNAP in American history, $186 billion over the next 10 years before this manufactured crisis, this decision that they're making, this choice they're making not to provide the contingency funds to mitigate the impacts during Thanksgiving, during the holidays when we give thanks and we come together as a community and as a family. They chose. That's cruelty. So this ends when Donald Trump decides to get back on a plane and come back to the United States of America and in good faith negotiate with a co-equal branch of government. He'll have time on the plane, and I would encourage him to read the Constitution of the United States of America. 3 co-equal branches of government. Popular sovereignty, the rule of law. President Trump, it's the rule of law, not the rule of Don. The President and Congress will decide when this shutdown ends. But I've never in my lifetime, and there have been many shutdowns, experienced a president so disassociated, disconnected from the pain and suffering of the American people that he turned their back and went overseas with a crisis of this magnitude at this moment, who went golfing the weekend before the shutdown, who had one meeting that he refused to invite cameras in, which for Donald Trump is an extraordinary act, where he put hats that said Trump 2028 and sent out selfies or Truth Social tweets. He is an unserious president. And so, to the extent there are serious members of Congress, and this individual senator, as you referenced, is asserting himself, trying to be one of them, I wish him luck at the Senate lunch today as he talks about food cuts to millions and millions of Americans.
Governor, I saw
$80 million from California to food bank. Can you talk about what exactly would it do and how long is that expected?
It's not enough. It's 1 point. Look, we've got some humility here. It's $1.1 billion a month that the federal government is providing. So food banks at this time of year, again, are busy. And the food bank, all their representatives will say this, $80 million is not going to be close to enough. I've talked with legislative leaders. I'm going to add a topic, the next conversation around the annex. Appreciate that. But I talked to legislative leaders about this issue and what we can do together. I'm in the process, as you know, of putting together next year's budget. This is when I get busy with the budget, which I'll submit in January, and additional resources that we can work together to find. Trying to do that for a myriad of other programs, from Planned Parenthood to issues across the spectrum because of what's happened in Washington, D.C., and have to find a way to balance all those things. But we were pleased to be able to work with agency to get those dollars distributed. And again, it's to 50 specific grantees. And then they work with hundreds, quite literally hundreds, over 2,000 specific pantries and programs throughout the state. We're encouraging more volunteers. We're bringing in our own volunteer corps and, again, the National Guard to the extent logistics becomes a growing issue. But no, $80 million, I'm mindful, is not going to do the job. And so we're going to have to do more.
Mr. Governor, I wonder if you have a pulse
on the public perception of National Guard troops at food banks? Obviously, they're there to help with operations, but I imagine there might be some uneasiness given the last few months. Is there any concern that might scare people away from going into
Yeah,
this?
that's why it's voluntary. It's why they're requested. And you know, one of the wonderful things, and I saw so many interviews with National Guard, and they're not, you know, they were so pleased to get back to what they do best. I mean, these are the same National Guard men and women. By the way, these are teachers, doctors, nurses. These are folks that work at food banks. These are your neighbors. These are healthcare workers. These are remarkable public servants and patriots. These are the folks that we deployed, 3,000+ of them, to help with the recovery for the fires in Los Angeles. I mean, the biggest problem we had, I'll remind you, with the National Guard in Los Angeles was the amount of food and water that they were receiving, the number of selfies that were being requested. It was overwhelming, the gratitude in every part of that county. It was really wonderful to see. Only Donald Trump could destroy that trust. And so on that topic, we're sensitive to that. But one of the great things to me that really sensitized me was redirecting to the mission to which they should be used for, was how grateful many of them were. And they said that. You'll see some of you have quoted, some of you have written about it, and I appreciate that. I think it's important. They're saying, thank you. This gives us a chance once again to reintroduce who we are and what we're about. We don't have masks on. We're not being told to hide. We're not coming in with guns. But I'm deeply mindful, not only mindful of the frame of your question, which is great. We also have met with advocacy groups and others that have expressed that concern. And we made the point, to the extent they're needed, we can use them logistics in the background. We can organize them in a very distinctive way. We'll curate that. And we're not trying to do things to you, but with you to the extent you need it. But the LA example was really wonderful and heartwarming. And I hope it's a model that will encourage others.
Governor, we saw the interview this weekend. You've been asked about the president's question over and over again. There was a different response this weekend on Sunday's CBS This Morning with Robert Costa. I'm just curious if you can shed some light on that.
Nothing more. There's no. I was just being honest about the fact that people have conversations, and so I thought it'd be better to be direct as opposed to do the usual kabuki that politicians tend to do on the subject. But beyond that, there's quite literally nothing to add. Quite literally nothing more to add.
Any message for Californians who are about to start buying their Covered California 2026 plans for you or for Secretary?
Yeah, I mean, look, some are going to experience 388% increase. 388% increase. That's what this whole government shutdown's about. To have the backs of tens of millions of Americans that are going to face unprecedented increase in their health care costs. We're living in a state with 6.4% uninsured. I want to contrast that, for example, in relationship to Prop 50. Greg Abbott, I believe the last time, you can quote me, but with an asterisk, the last time I checked, their uninsured rate was 16.7%. It's a taker state that takes more federal money and still provides less. 16.7% uninsured rate. California was at 6.4%. First state to provide universal health care regardless of pre-existing conditions, ability to pay and regardless of your status. And then we run right into this brick wall with these subsidies. And the impacts are outsized for the state of California because of the number of people that rely, disproportionate number in our state that rely on these subsidies. So you saw, and we've put out charts on the Bronze Plan at Blue Shield and others. I mean, these are jaw-dropping increases, and those notices are going to go out. They went out, and we were pretty candid about it. Congress and the president have not been able to agree, and as a consequence, the premium increases are going to skyrocket. And so we're doing all we can to continue to support our leaders in Congress, House and Senate, to hold the line on behalf of Californians and the American people to support those subsidies. Not only support them in the short run, but support extending those subsidies beyond November of 2026.
And we have time for just one more question.
Mr. Bonta, are you staying out of the governor's race still? Is that still a plan for you?
Well, I haven't said I wasn't going to run for a third term.
I am staying out of the governor's race. I am honored, grateful, feel it's a privilege to serve as AG anytime, and particularly in these times. This is the most important moment and the most important job I've ever had. I want to give everything I have to it, my time, my attention, my passion, my energy, my focus. We have more than one case a week. We're fighting for the future of our democracy, rights, protections, the rule of law, our Constitution, and I want to be central to that fight on behalf of the people of this great state and this great country. So I'm completely focused on being the best AG I can.
And if I did have a third term, I wouldn't want to lose him as AG. He's doing an exceptional job. So I like that answer. Even if you thought that was a political, I don't know. You may have thought that. I don't know. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.